Minneapolis, Minnesota, on my podcast studio side, because I'm working hard on my other live stream side. Robb Ryerse, who's in a barn that's on fire.
Smoking a victory cigar.
Oh boy. Hey, I started a juice cleanse again today. About 4 times a year, I do a juice cleanse. And I thought, this is it. I can cleanse myself of the tour and all the good hard work, cleanse myself of Donald. And then here I am in the basement talking about Donald Trump again. But it's true, Rob. If it's ever been more true than it is right now, you tell me a day when we would say together, this guy has got to.
And not just this guy has got to go. This guy is gonna go, which is just wonderful news.
Yeah. Look, people have asked as well. They should. Are you 100% confident? I got a couple of panicky text messages from some friends today. I'm seeing some things. Did you see this video? Do you think it's possible that he's going to stay around? Nope, and nope. He's not going to stay around. Is he going to use the call for a recount as a fundraiser to pay off his debt that he has for the campaign?
Yep, absolutely.
That's what I think he's doing. What do you think he's doing?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. The longer that he we got a message that somebody can't hear anything.
Really? No.
I'm seeing it in the chat. Somebody said I can't hear anything. Is that an us problem or is that a Heather problem?
No, that's an us problem. There's no doubt about that. Let me see if there's some reason why this would be. 122 people already watching.
I've got volume. I turned it up. I've got volume. So I think
you're hearing it. Can you hear me?
Oh, now we've got yeah, I can hear you. Now we've got folks saying they can hear, which is fantastic. Great.
Awesome. Hey, Heather, if you can't hear, I'm not going to say anything because you can't hear. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I
not that I don't care that Heather can't hear. I care that
Heather hit the little volume button.
I want Heather to hear.
Yeah,
Heather,
absolutely.
push the button. I just don't know how to tell someone on a podcast recording that's being live streamed.
Yeah, I don't know. So listen, I totally agree that I think that he is absolutely funding his campaign debt through this bogus vote counting, election stealing scenario. I think that's absolutely part of it. I also think that, what we've got here is someone who, the idea that that he lost is just so earth-shattering to him that it's more than he can bear.
Yeah, it's as if he has not been listening to regular installments of This Guy Has Got to Go to know that there was an argument being made that he was going to go. Hey, here's the other thing I think that's going on. If there's anything going on that's not just Donald Trump being a sore loser, they built a narrative. And they were going to run that narrative, assuming that the vote count was going to be enormous, that he was going to have lost by huge numbers. And then they were going to come out and say, there's no way those numbers could be that high. Stop the count. Right? Because the numbers are runaway. Just like they built a narrative that Bernie Sanders was going to be the nominee. And so it was an attack on socialism. And even when it was Joe Biden as the nominee, they didn't care. They just rolled out the plan. They're like the movie Vacation, where Chevy Chase is just going to keep going to, Wally World, no matter what. They were going to roll that out. And I think that their only plan was stop the count narratives. And then it gets close and they're like, oh, our only plan is to stop the count and say that it was fraudulent, because they thought there would be a clean swipe across the presidency and all the way through with the, into the congressional seats and Senate seats. So they were going to say, of course they were. And then the facts turned out that people voted against Donald Trump and voted for congressional Republicans and voted for congressional or Republican senators and voted against Trump. So even though the whole thing becomes a fiction at this point, that's what they've got. They got memes made up. They had a campaign plan made up. They had lawyers ready to go in. And they're just basically running that because, again, Rob, as you have said, and I want you to say it about Four Seasons Landscaping, these people are profoundly bad at their jobs. They are. The fact that they got 70 million votes, notwithstanding, I could be wrong, because 70 million votes is the second highest that any presidential candidate has ever received, and could likely be the second highest any presidential candidate ever receives. But they're so bad at what they do. They're really just stunningly incompetent, that even their campaign lawyers that are going in the judges are like saying, you're the president of the United States attorney. I'm going to let you have a hearing. Now stop talking and go away. They're bad at a level that they shouldn't be this bad at, right? They should have had a plan. And the fact that Trump is running around yelling at Jared Kushner because his lawyers weren't doing a better job, is again.
I was going to ask if you had seen that story that Jared Kushner apparently had assured the president that the legal plan was in place, that the lawyers are in place, and it turns out they weren't. So, I mean, we can add this to the list with Middle East peace, coronavirus. What else is Jared
Infrastructure Week? Oh, you mean just the things Jared Kushner was supposed to do? I mean, cover up the killing by the Saudis of the journalists.
I mean, so many of these things that have been put on Jared Kushner's plate, and he is utterly failed at. And apparently, the president's election legal defense is one of those things that has just blown up. And I mean, you read the transcripts of these court proceedings. I read one to Vanessa last night. They're just hilarious, where the judge asked point blank, do you have any evidence of election fraud? And the response of the lawyers is an honest, no, we don't. Did you see the one? I think it was in Michigan, the lawsuit in Michigan that got dismissed, where the judge asked Trump's lawyers how many people, how many Republican observers were in the room, and he said his response was, "Well, the number is non-zero."
Yes,
non-zero.
Non-zero. Is this the one where then the judge said, "You're a member of the bar and you are under oath. I need you to answer this question: were there Republican observers in the counting room?" Yes, there were. That's it. Then your case is not a case. And look, we don't have to relitigate all of Trump's failed litigations as, what's he referred to in the Michael Cohen court case as? Individual number one.
Yeah.
But if his legal defense is not any better when he is literally facing down state and federal charges for the many things that I do still believe this man is going to face as his up and come. But this is why he has to go, because the call has always been not just that, as you like to say, he's cruel and he's conceited, corrupt
and
incompetent. But he's just the fact that so many people, and look, I give no benefit to these Republicans that are having a hard time right now. Like, well, what are we supposed to do? Our guy still wants us to go out and fight. Like, just stop talking, Mike Pompeo, right? Like Mike Pompeo's little joke here that, we're going to have a very smooth transition into a second Trump term. He doesn't have to make that joke, right? He can just simply say, we're going to have a clean transition no matter who. The fact that Mike Pompeo, and if people don't know what we're talking about, you should look it up, because
he's not doing a podcast in his basement or in his backyard shed where you can make jokes like that. You're the Secretary of State.
Answering a very serious question asked in the midst of a transition. And then he pivots to, look, the world is watching. We're going to make sure this is done right. We're going to have so are you saying that the world is watching and Donald Trump's no longer going to be president? Or are you unclear about who won the election? Because you know what it doesn't take to determine who won the election? Either candidate. They have nothing to do with it. So why these Republicans and people in the administration are continuing to say we can't answer the question? Well, that's why this guy's got to go. Now, do you think, okay, let's just entertain this. I'm thinking of Josh Scott here. He might even be watching. Do you think there's any chance at all that Trump can pull off some shenanigans one way or the other that would keep him in office, where on noon on the 20th of January, that Joe Biden would not be sworn in as the president of the United States?
No. I know. For a number of reasons. One is, there's all this conversation that's taken place about state houses, state legislatures choosing electors. Every single state has passed law. Every single state has passed laws that require the electors to be chosen by the people, by the popular vote in those states. There is no way around that in any of the states. The Supreme Court has ruled against the idea of faithless electors, which took place in 2016. I think there were 2 or 3 electors.
Bill Weld electors.
No, well,
they voted for Bill Weld instead of Donald Trump.
Did they?
That's why Bill Weld had two electors. It came up at one of our events with him. He joked about it.
Yeah.
He talked for 45 minutes when he had 5-minute slot. Bill Weld did at our event, presidential candidate Bill Weld. But in that 45 minutes was the comment that he too had won electoral votes, and that's why he was the best candidate to defeat Donald Trump. But anyway, but go on.
Turns out Joe Biden is the best candidate to defeat.
Turns out.
So faithless electors are not a thing anymore. The Supreme Court has ruled against that.
Is that true?
That is, I believe that's true.
Okay.
I
rest better tonight.
I'll have to Google that, but there is, Joe Biden is going to end up with 306 electors. This is not close. This is, when Donald Trump got 306 electors, it was the greatest landslide in the history of presidential politics.
And technically, Joe Biden, he only got 304. So, which I think is what all this recount stuff is about. I think Trump wants to make sure that in the end, Joe Biden didn't get equal amount or more electors than he did.
Yeah.
I really do think that this is how vain the man is.
Yeah.
That this is the big argument that he wants to make.
Yeah. So I think what we're going to see is him pouting and kicking and screaming. But when Florida happened in 2000, which is, I think, in all of our lifetimes, probably the closest scenario to what we're experiencing right now. The legal challenges were immediate and complex, and in many people's minds, sincere and appropriate, in other people's minds, not. And they very quickly gained traction, and we all very quickly knew that there was going to be a very long recount process with every single legal case that the president has brought. It's getting tossed out of court in no time at all. There is just no traction for Donald Trump,
right?
Being able to claim that he won the election, other than the narrative that he put in place. And listen, I think we did this. We have done this in the past. We have underestimated Donald Trump's ability as a marketer and as a politician, in terms of he laid the groundwork for this mail-in ballot. He laid the groundwork, and he's sticking with it. And
the thing that got him was that the numbers didn't come back the way he thought they were.
Yeah.
That the fact that Republicans won down ticket is what makes it impossible to make the argument that it was stuffed with ballots of non-voters.
Yes, because how can you make the argument that what happened at the top of the ticket is invalid and everything that happened at the bottom of the ticket is valid?
Yes.
These Republican, these newly elected Republican congresspeople all over the country, some of whom defeated some of our friends like Kendra Horn in Oklahoma City, they don't want the results of the election challenge, do they? No. Because that calls into question their election. And so it's utterly ridiculous.
It's utterly ridiculous. But the fact that still so many Republicans feel like this is the thing they have to defend. And this is the larger piece. Like when we say, and now here's the big turn for those as regular listeners to This Guy's Got to Go podcast and live stream. This is how we get into season 2, 2021 with This Guy's Got to Go. What Donald Trump represents is a manifestation of a Trumpism that has existed for a long time. And that's the very deep conspiracy theories, the very deep mistrust, the very deep sense that there's a group of people who are operating in the bowels of the power of this country that are actually running everything. Let me just argue again, which we have so many times. There is no deep conspiracy. There is no deep political state that is choosing the candidates and therefore the winners of these elections. There were days in our Vote Common Good tour traveling the country where I felt like I wish there was a group of people in a room somewhere picking these people, because we would just go influence the room.
Yes.
It doesn't exist. And the fact that the electorate in this country moved some states and flipped them and not other ones, and in some states it was really close, and in some states they were voted for Republicans down ticket and for not the president on the top. This is just the reality that we live in. I know it would be easier to believe that it's all rigged and that there's a conspiracy theory and that someone's got their deep hands on it all and that the power lies in whomever. But that wasn't true in 2016. Look, Donald Trump won the election in 2016.
Yep.
And he won it because of the micro choices of millions and millions of people around this country, including which circle they filled in.
Yep.
It wasn't Russia. Now, look, Russia influenced our campaign.
Yep.
Yes, because they lied to people. Russia interfered in truth-telling in our campaign. Yes, they did. Russia flat out lied to millions of people, and they believed those lies as they do to this very day. Did they go in and change ballots? They didn't. Did they rig the counting machines so that they would count wrongly? No, they didn't.
Right.
None of that happened. And to all the people who wanted Hillary Clinton to win as much as I did, who are holding on to the fact that she didn't lose the election in the Electoral College, but it was really rigged, that's not true. And the same thing on the other side now, that the people who believe that this was a rigged election, not by Russians, but by Republicans and Democrats joining together, no, they didn't. The truth is much more obvious. People made these choices.
Yep.
And it is way too close for my comfort. It ended up, in my little metaphor, not being a blue wave, but ended up being a blue rising tide. Joe Biden won more votes and a percentage increase of votes in every state, with the exception of Mississippi. And my data could be 2 or 3 days old, so maybe even Mississippi has he gotten more. But in 49 of 50 states, as of 2 days ago, Joe Biden got more people voting for him in every single state, even the states he didn't win, even the states that were clearly not the states that he was ever going to win. More people voted for him. So it was a serious movement, but it wasn't an overwhelming tide, that there weren't these flips. In fact, if anything, Republicans picking up seats in the House and holding on to the Senate, or at least running it to a 50-50 tie, incredible outcome, which tells me here's the season 2. Trumpism is alive and well.
Trumpism is not.
He's alive and well. And will it be named after him in the way that gerrymandering was named after some guy named Jerry who made something look like a salamander and it's called gerrymandering? Could an entire movement continue to bear his name without anyone having to worry about him? I think so. And so the reality of Trumpism, this sort of I'm going to, conjure up my inner Nick Brock from the Vote Common Good tour. This combination of intolerance and demagoguery and hatred, along with a deep, deep belief, which about 80% of the American population seems to hold, that something is cheated, something is rigged, some way or the other, the system is working against your better interest. And by system, I don't mean us as a population. I mean a group of people with very deliberate decisions and attitudes, a small cabal of people somewhere, someplace that are doing all of this. And man, I wish that was true, because we could crush a cabal. But what you got to do with a populace, what you have to do with a big movement of people like this, is you got to get in there and move people tick by tick by tick.
Yes. Yep. I would love to talk about like some of the kind of the surprises and the big lessons from the election. But before we do that, can we please just talk about Four Seasons Total Landscaping?
Okay. Tell the backstory for people who missed it. Because
I can't imagine anybody missed it. It's the single greatest story of all. We are living in a Veep episode.
Yes.
Like that. Oh, it's absolutely amazing.
So we're on the bus, still driving back, and I look at a tweet. I was trying not to follow Donald Trump, but I just wanted to see if he had said some other bit of nonsense. I had to do a press interview. So I looked at his Twitter, and it said, big announcement.
4 seasons.
4 seasons.
11 a.m.
in New Jersey.
No, I think it was Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
His original tweet said, big announcement, big press conference, 4 seasons, Philadelphia, 11 a.m.
11 a.m. And then another one comes out.
And then a couple minutes later, it says, the press conference will be at the 4 seasons total landscaping at 11:30.
Yeah, it's like dash total landscaping. And I was like, what is what is, I mean, this is me getting suckered down, like somehow believing that Donald Trump is, like Q in the QAnon and he's sending secret messages. So I'm trying to figure out on the bus, like, what would the phrase total landscaping possibly mean? Like, is he talking about the whole landscape is going to, like, I'm literally trying to imagine what's going on in Donald Trump's brain.
Yeah. And I'd just like to show you here on my phone, and I'm gonna cover part of my phone up because it has my home address on it. But just is
not going to find that by Googling Robb Ryerse home address
you
in yellow
probably
in
can.
white pages.
So I just want to show you on my Google Maps on what I searched for.
I can't quite read it. Maybe people on the internet.
4 seasons total landscaping.
4 seasons total landscaping.
I immediately looked it up. It is
so as it turns out, their event was not held at a Four Seasons hotel, which is a moderately nice brand, seen its heyday in the 80s, which you would have thought, had Rudy Giuliani run a press conference to talk about Donald Trump's future victory in this election, a Four Seasons would be the kind of place that Rudy Giuliani would pick, and he would stay and have the he'd have the club sandwich, which I'm sure is fantastic. And it makes all the sense in the world. As it turns out, they had the wrong address, or they booked the wrong place. So apparently, finish the story for people.
Yeah, so
it was literally at a landscaping company called Four Seasons.
It was in the parking lot of a landscaping company. They had the backdrop was the garage door, the metal garage door covered in Trump signs, and Corey Lewandowski was there, and a few other folks along with Rudy Giuliani. And it was literally a landscaping company in an industrial part of Philadelphia, with apparently a sex shop next door and a crematorium across the street, and nestled between them.
So somewhere Corey Lewandowski typed in Four Seasons, and what came up for him was then not the hotel, but was the place next to the sex shop that he frequents.
It's just the best.
So they end up doing it at the garage door.
And then you assume that the owner of the Four Seasons Total Landscaping has got to be a big donor.
Yes.
And
right.
then
they're giving him a taste.
Yeah. And then you find out, nope. Turns out it was just like the owner was like, no, they just called and asked if they could use our parking lot, and we said sure.
So what turned out happening was that the Trump voice of his reelection need, and this is Saturday morning just before it's about to be called, calls some random building and asks if they can have an event in their parking lot, and then set up a makeshift backdrop. And someone sent me a note and said, it looks like a Vote Common Good event. And I said, hey, I take quite seriously the idea that they pulled off in short order a little sound system, some backdrop, and they had a parking lot. And there's Rudy Giuliani, and as you say, Lewandowski and other soon-to-be inmates standing outside of this place, making a pitch about how they're going to run all these lawsuits. And in the middle of it, they announced that Joe Biden has, to which then all the reporters turned around and walked away.
packed up and left.
Which again feels more like a Vote Common Good rally that we had, where after the photographers shot their stuff, they didn't stay for the rest of our pitch, and then ended up on the evening news on Fox News.
Yep.
So there was nothing more of an homage to their victor than the legal team giving a Vote Common Good like send off to Rudy Giuliani.
It is just my favorite story of all time. And I love the people at Four Seasons Total Landscaping, because now on their website, they very quickly monetize this. You can now, they added a merch section to their website where you now can buy a sticker that says "Rake America Great Again." And
oh my gosh, I love them so much.
And then they've got one that says "Lawn and Order," which is just these are our kind of people, Doug.
We need to get this guy. We need to get Barry from Four Seasons Landscaping on the podcast. Like at what point did they come out and say, "Hey guys, you got to go. Hey, move it.
Come on." Yeah. And I told my wife, if I do not get a Four Seasons Total Landscaping T-shirt for Christmas, I'm going to be very, very disappointed, because it's just.
And how many of those already exist that aren't their logos and are knockoffs that are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like we sell the the person, woman, man, TV, camera shirts.
Yeah.
These are collector's items. So I mean, but literally, like, this question of how does a presidential administration's re-election campaign not have a location cited and ready to go for their press conference? Now, you could say, as they did, as Lewandowski and others then wrote, hey, the good people of Philadelphia use the Four Seasons Landscaping Company because they're hard workers and they come in, they do blue collar. Look, if you were picking a blue collar place, the president would have had the address in the first rendition. It was clearly a mistake.
Yep.
And they clearly then tried to cover it up. And so, the president making an error and then covering it up and then double downing on the error that he made by saying it wasn't an error. It's almost as if you would have heard Donald Trump say, I was just joking. I was just kidding about having it there. Like the bleach in your body. It was clearly sarcasm that we were at the Four Seasons.
Yeah. Yeah. The guy who we have never seen laugh in 4 years is not the kind of person who's going to be making a joke about this kind of thing. It's the utter incompetence is just and one of my absolute favorite things along with that is when Trump tweeted "Stop the count," while all the counts were continuing, I just had this sense of like, oh, we get to ignore him now.
Yes.
Like nobody's listening to him.
Done.
Like he did. Like you're done. You're like,
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Your tweets don't matter.
They don't matter. In fact, I'm glad to announce today that on December 15th, we're going to launch the Dump Trump Day, for which we have many a t-shirt. And it's not dump him from your vote. It's dump him off your social media. So the reason is December 15th.
Can it be a dump truck with a Four Seasons Total Landscaping logo on the side?
It is now. It is now. And it's gonna dump like tweets out the back. Yep. Somebody needs to animate that. So if somebody could get busy on that right now, that would be timely. But the reason it's December 15th is because that's the day that the Electoral College, the faithful electors who need to vote common good when they vote, by the way. So Vote Common Good isn't quite done asking peoples to vote in 2020. We're going to ask the electors to vote for the good. When the faithful electors take their Electoral College duty and they cast their ballot for the requisite candidates, that's the day that it's done for Donald Trump, officially done. Now, somebody would argue, no, it's January 6th, because January 6th is the day that the new Congress, which is now up for Republicans from where it is currently, will then receive those electors' votes, take those votes in and make it official.
And certify them. Yes.
And certify them. And then on the 20th is the new president inaugurated. And the reason I know all this stuff is because I did a deep Google search while we were traveling about what happens if a person is a candidate for president doesn't live all the way until election. Joe Biden's going to live, no doubt about that, but just trying to come up with all the possible scenarios that could go on, that could Donald Trump somehow still steal the election at the last minute. That the rules become more and more clear as you get closer to the 15th of December and the 6th of January and the 20th of January about what happens if a person isn't available any longer to be the president, even when they've been voted for. If something happens between now and the 15th of December, something were to happen, it's a little murky about who those electors vote for, and how that all comes down. But if we get to that point, the 15th, which is the day that I think we can confidently dump Trump from our social media. So we're asking everybody everywhere, stop following the man. Stop it. Drop him. Send him over to that what's the new website? Parlor. Send him over to Parlor. I have him just really get busy over on his 4chan alternative over there called Parlor.
Have you set up your Parlor account yet?
I haven't. No. I haven't. Yeah. I felt like I was on Twitter like early on, and it's just haunted me ever since.
I have a friend here in Arkansas who's actually a state senator here in Arkansas, that his Twitter is @G.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He got in early.
Yes, absolutely. So let me ask you this. What were the big surprises for you? What were the things that shocked you about election night and the aftermath?
There was a German film crew following us as a 6th episode in what has become a internationally best-selling documentary about America. Not so much in America yet, because it's in German and French. Now there's German and French with American subtitles that you can watch from Arte. So they were filming which really, Rob, have you seen it yet? Have you watched any of this?
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh my gosh. It is truly riveting. We are in these scenes. I mean, maybe it's the way you feel about the documentary that's made about you. You're in the scenes, but still all caught up in it. It's and it's as good as reality television. But there was a film crew filming us for the final election night in DC. And at one point, it's probably 8:40. I'm standing in the McDonald's down the street from the boarded up McDonald's, but the door's still open and open for business, down the street from Lafayette Park in the White House and Black Lives Matter Plaza, because they were afraid the city was going to be damaged, depending on the results. And it's barren in there, and I'm leaning up against the wall about 8:40 or 8:50 at night. And my son Taylor, who was there, came up and said, "Dad, that film crew is filming you, and they probably shouldn't see you leaned up against the wall with that depressed look on your face." They had just called Florida for Trump.
Yeah.
And I was in full
panic,
traumatic stress moments of it's literally happening again.
Yep. I got a phone call from my son, and who said the exact same thing. "Dad, it's 2016 all over again." It was about that same time, and he was feeling the exact same way.
I mean, right now I was holding my breath all the way through you saying that, because it just was so much. So that was a surprise. I was so confident that Trump was going to lose Florida, and they were going to call it by 8:30. And then that was going to be it, right? It was just going to be rolling out from there. Basically, some version of the polling that was out, because I'm literally Charlie Brown, and pollsters are literally Lucy with a football. And every time they put it out, I come running up to kick it, and they pull it away. And how long am I and everybody else going to keep kicking at these people's football? I don't know. I would like to say I'm done with them. I'd like to say I'm not going to pay attention to them anymore. No. Like as the great proverb said, that was repeated in the book of 2 Peter, as a dog returns to his vomit, so does a fool repeat his folly. And, I'm like a dog thrown up in the corner and then wandering around the yard and walking right back over there again, because these people apparently think that they can just, ask 1,500 people and then run their algorithms, which it's not. Look, they always say, well, the voters are lying to us. Maybe your algorithm is wrong. Maybe people aren't lying to you. Maybe the fact that whatever percentage you're extrapolating out, and I do think it's possible to extrapolate, I believe in statistics, but your presumptions that are in your model is what's wrong. It's not that voters, talk about blaming the victims here. Knock it off, you people. So that was a surprise to me. It was a big surprise.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it was a surprise to me that 70 million people said, give me a refill on that guy.
Yeah.
70 million. Like, he got 62 million votes in 2016. I literally believed, I truly did. I mean, this is why no one should listen to me. If you've listened to this long, listen to Rob, don't listen to me. I really thought he was going to get 61.5 million votes this time. I really, really did. I thought his total number of votes would be down. Oh, it wasn't down. Oh, it was up 12%. It was up 14%. He lost a bunch of people. He picked up, he gained people that didn't vote for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I am absolutely shocked. And we kind of mentioned this a little bit. When I look at the results, at the complete lack of coattails that Joe Biden had.
Yeah.
Joe Biden did not help any Democrat running anywhere.
Right.
And you look in districts and places where Joe Biden did really well, like Kent County, Michigan, as an example, in the Grand Rapids area. Joe Biden is the first Democrat to win that county in forever. And Democratic candidate there for Congress, Hillary Scholten, who is a fantastic candidate, lost.
She may have made one
critical
fatal error. Didn't come to a vote common good rally.
But she lost. And you look at that all across the country. You like Omaha, Nebraska, which is a tight race. Nebraska's 2nd congressional district with Cara Eastman against Don Bacon. Joe Biden, and Cara lost in 2018 to Don Bacon by 5,000 votes. It was razor thin, very, very close. Joe Biden won that district by 7%, and Cara lost by significantly. She got more votes than she got in 2018, but the percentage she lost that. The people, it's a really fascinating thing that happened in this election. It's the people who voted for Joe Biden and voted for Republican congresspeople and Republican senators. It's really shocking.
Well, it was it was, and a part of what shocks me about that is that we run an organization that asked people to consider doing that. Right now, not because we didn't want to help those candidates. We were just saying, we know you're still a Republican, so do whatever you have to do, but free the country of this horrible, horrible president. Do what you can. You don't have to become a Democrat. And that translated, and there was something that was tapping into a lived experience out of people. Now, we're not responsible for Cara Eastman. We're certainly not responsible for the unnamed candidate who didn't come to our event in Grand Rapids. But the idea that people just shifted to becoming Democrats because Donald Trump has so polluted the Republican swimming pool, that's not true. That's not what happened. No one should assume that that's what happened. What they said, which is what so many of us have wanted people to say, was, we are done with Donald Trump. This guy has got to go. What we do with the rest of this, we've got to figure that out. And working out Trumpism, look, I still think Republicans have squandered every bit of goodwill that they built, if they ever built any. It should be all gone. You know who doesn't think that? Republicans. And 70 million of them that voted for Donald Trump. And the number, to your point, which somebody will run out, at some point, the number of people who voted for Republicans across this country is going to be much higher than 70 million, because people didn't vote for Trump. That you count those in there. And then all the people that voted for Biden but voted for Republicans on the other side. This is an evenly split country.
Trump won Maine, and Susan Collins was reelected.
Yep.
In a race, and I mean, the amount of money that Democratic candidates for the United States Senate spent in Maine,
incredible,
Kentucky, South Carolina, it is the amount of money that's about to be spent in Georgia, probably $500 million. I mean, $500 million is about to be spent in Georgia.
And the way they spend a lot of that is buying ads. Like, it's just,
and it's great for local TV stations, not for local TV salespeople, because
remind us why.
because so if I am a local TV salesman and I sell an ad to a local car dealership, and then a politician,
say for the Four Seasons landscaping.
yes,
Yes,
if I
let's
sell,
say.
yeah. So if I sell an ad to Four Seasons Total Landscaping, and then a political campaign comes in, like that airtime is not actually purchased until the commercial itself airs. There is a point up into like very close to when it airs that somebody can come in and pay more money for that ad, like for that airspace, and that money goes to the station itself and not to the local salespeople. And my ad gets preempted, and I don't get paid for that. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a racket.
Well, you know, when you start thinking about is local television ad salespeople again. I mean, where's that constituency? Where's that lot? Maybe that's a job for you, Rob. Maybe you should become a lobbyist for local television. Hey, I was listening to Morning Joe today after, as someone who has no willpower, I had said, I'm done watching Morning Joe and watching their nonsense because they were just so wrong again and again and again. As a dog, I was right back there watching it again this morning. And they were going on and on about one of the tragedies about this hang on, about Trump not releasing funds and monies and all this and declaring it to be done and letting people go off and get other jobs, is all the people who work for Donald Trump and work in the administration and need to go get jobs. What about them? What about their life? Like, seriously? Who cares about people that are working for Donald Trump and are going to now have a hard time getting a job and are going to have to wait 3 weeks before they freshen up their Indeed resume? Who cares about these people that, like, oh, by the way, he's challenging the legitimacy of democracy. And, you know, there's a person that worked in the White House and has been hanging around drawing a paycheck from this joker the whole time. And what about them? They need to go get a job. Couldn't, like, this political class that talks about this stuff. And look, if MSNBC wants to offer me a job, I'll take the job and I'll talk like a political class. I'll do whatever you need me to do. I'm available for hire. But until then, this political class that wants to act as if like we need to worry about the employees whose kids, one of the guys literally said, there's people that are going to have to move from California to work in the White House for Joe Biden. And he doesn't know if he can, get a moving van. Like, really?
These are very minor problems.
Oh, yes, they are not I'm sure, if you get a job in the administration, you can come up with a plan to move in time. Like, you really think you need this extra let's not tell Donald Trump that he shouldn't challenge the election because somebody needs to plan their move. Let's tell Donald Trump he shouldn't challenge the election because challenging an election.
He resoundingly lost.
Yes.
These vote totals are do not warrant what these challenges. They do not. Are you concerned that he seems to be rooting out people in the Defense Department?
Very much. Very much. I mean, of the people that have got to go before Inauguration Day, it's probably not the Secretary of Defense. Maybe it should be you, or, as we should talk about, Mike Pence, who's going to go on vacation. And it postponed it today. But yeah, no, this is terribly disturbing. Now, what I'm assuming he's doing is now going down his list and saying to people like someone does when they're at the last day of the garage sale, and they're like, hey, everything for a quarter, you bring your own box, everything is free. I think what he's basically saying is, who needs to put defense secretary on your resume? Right? I don't think he's using it to try to get ready to go to war. I don't think that's what's happening. Yeah. I think it could also happen to Mike Pompeo. I think it could happen to every cabinet member. Hey, we got a bunch of people that are going to need to put, who was the guy that was the attorney general for like a week and a half? The bald headed guy, big bruiser. They brought in, it was on cable TV, and he came in. Remember, between Jeff Sessions and Bill Barr?
Oh, I don't
remember the guy. Now I bet she's coming back to your mind, right? What's that guy's name? He popped up because he was on TV like, hey, Donald Trump should be able to do this about the Mueller investigation. And Trump's like, give me that guy. So they got that guy, right? And then he became the attorney general for a brief period of time, which, other than being forgotten by a podcast of our quality, is a real downer for him. I'm sure it helped his professional life. But
Yeah.
that's what I think they're going to do with a lot of these people.
Resume building.
Resume boosting.
Somebody said Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz, does that name ring a bell?
Yeah, it could be it.
Nancy's chiming in here with a comment. I think that might be
God, I love the fact that you got your eye on what these. If I had my eye on what these people were doing, I'd be playing to the crowds. Just so you all know, I'm not reading any of your comments right now, so I'm not ignoring you individually. I'm ignoring you in mass. Just because I'd be chatting with you. If
much like Donald Trump is doing with the the majority of the American public who voted for him not to be president.
I am disturbed. I am disturbed about this happening. But I think, like everything for Trump, it's about money and it's about prestige. That's it. Yeah. That's all there is with this guy. There's never been anything else. And he's I thought that I was going to become very magnanimous after Trump's loss. I thought he was going to get beaten very, very badly. I thought it was going to be a repudiation election. It turns out it was at a small margin that Trump was repudiated and Republicans were not. I thought Republicans were going to be repudiated.
Yeah.
But it was just Trump, which isn't bad. It was like a game of Operation where they reached the little tweezers in and pulled out the leg bone and didn't touch any of the sides. So got, extracted him out of the problem. But I thought it'd be magnanimous because I know, look, Trump voters are going to feel like the country turned against them. No. It turns out they're just fine. And now we got to really have a conversation about why you continue to support this guy. And there's going to be some things coming from Vote Common Good that are going to help us have that conversation in this country, because Rob and I and dozens of others traveled around this country and we interacted with Trump voters. And those of you that think that you're just like, well, I'm just a Republican, I want low taxes, you just need to know who you're in the voting booth with, who's in your team. And if you're comfortable with those people being on your team, go ahead. But if you're not, say something about them. And you know what I don't think you're going to do? Say something about them. Because you didn't say anything to Donald Trump when he was that way. And I don't think you're going to say anything to the white supremacists and to the violent agitators and to the haters that are out there, and to the people that wished us death and worse on the work that we were doing. These are the people you're in with. Many of them are religious voters. And look, to all of our pastor friends who want to listen to this, the fact that you chose so often to again remain silent in this election is just unforgivable. It just basically says, you are untrustworthy if it's ever going to cost you a thing. And I am just so tired of it, and so tired of these people thinking that they're taking the high road.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. I think you're right. I don't think this was a repudiation election.
Okay.
I think Trump was defeated soundly, and that's a great thing. But this was not a repudiation of Trumpism, of his approach. I think it was at best a slap on the wrist of like, hey, can't we get somebody who could do this with a little bit more tact? I'm really
it was a repudiation of his Twitter account.
Yeah. And not much else. And that's deeply concerning about the future. And then, and I know there's a lot of conversation happening within the Democratic Party right now of, progressives and centrists and moderates and who's to blame for all of that happening. You can look up and down the list. There are progressives who won, and there are centrists who won, and progressives who lost, and centrists who lost. It does not feel like a repudiation of anything to me. It feels to me like all of this stuff is still on the table, and we've got a lot of work to do.
I was going to ask if you thought it was maybe a repudiation of the socialism agenda, but maybe
no, I don't
you're
think
right.
so.
It's not some. So what it tells me is that it's not about policy or politics in America. It's about the person. Now, policy plays a role in the person you support. Yes.
Yep.
But it's not about that. Policy is a supporting argument. It's not the argument. The person is the argument. So you get places where people say no to Donald Trump and yes to a Republican because they think I can go with that person and not that person. Fundamentally, as much as some of us want it to be about policy and we want it to be about big issues, representative forms of democracy tend to be about the person.
Yeah.
And Joe Biden was likable enough, was engageable, and people really didn't want Donald Trump enough that they went for him. And in a huge way, he's going to win. Biden's going to win by more than 5 million votes. That's a big gap of just the numbers of people. Percentage wise, sure, it's going to be 2% as opposed to 1980 when Ronald Reagan beat Jimmy Carter at like a 58 to 42% margin. But my guess is that that margin was probably somewhere closer to 5 million than it was to anything else. So in other words, this is a huge number of people. But we've always had this split government like this. I looked up these sort of data to try to give myself some bearing on this. Reagan in 1984 beat Walter Mondale. It was Walter Mondale, sorry, that he beat 58% to 42%.
Yeah.
The biggest,
because
that's the biggest number, like in modern history, 58%. Every other election has been under 58%, including Reagan in 1980 and every other election. When Clinton won, it was under 50% because Ross Perot was in the mix. And then when Obama won, it was 52% or 51%. Like, we just have always had a 50-50 country when it comes to the presidential election. I just thought this time Trump would be so bad that it would repress that number supporting him. And it didn't.
It didn't. And just, the comparison to Reagan is that in 1980, Reagan got 50.7% of the vote, which was the most that any challenger to a sitting president had gotten since FDR in 1932.
Ooh.
Biden is now at 50.8%. So Biden actually has outperformed what Reagan did in 1980.
He's the new Ronald Reagan.
Not in the Electoral College, because Reagan won handily in the Electoral College. And won, in 1984, won 49 states, which is insane when you stop to think about it. 49 states. So Biden actually outperformed Reagan in 1980. It's the most votes. It's the highest percentage that a challenger to an incumbent president has gotten since 1932 when FDR ran.
Incredible. So this guy's got to go. Now, the thing we do have to talk about, and we need to talk about going forward, is that Kamala Harris is going to be the vice president of the United States.
Oh, isn't that fantastic?
I mean, look, say what you want about Kamala Harris, but don't say it in front of me, because I'm a big fan. And I want her to be a fantastic vice president, and I want her to be on the top of that ticket in 2024 like it's nobody's business. And I will give all I got to a Kamala Harris for president 2024 ticket.
I tweeted a long time ago when she was chosen as Joe Biden's running mate, that as the parent of a brown-skinned daughter, I am just absolutely thrilled that my daughter is going to have a brown-skinned vice president who's a woman to look up to. A brown-skinned woman is vice president, and just the historic win. That Kamala Harris represents is just absolutely fantastic for the country long term.
Right. And that word historic is a great one. It also reminds me of another word people use a lot, which is hysteria. And you might know that hysteria has the same root as hysterectomy, right? So these two words come from the same place, and hysteria is something that was blamed on women for being the kind of people who are caught up in hysteria, that they become unraveled, right? So the idea that this, and for all the movements around women that have been historic, that they replace hysteria. And I'm not saying a his versus hers. I'm saying that the idea that we can now talk about historic accomplishments in politics that has actually been prevented because of this belief that women are hysterical. And it really has to go. Look, the bias against women leaders in this country runs so deep. You add to that the bias against Black and brown people in this country runs so deep. It is just remarkable that this set of conditions of the most anti-woman, anti-Black, anti-brown president that we could have imagined in our modern era has brought about Kamala Harris being the vice president of the United States and the first one to be considered for that ballot in 2024 is unbelievable. And I'm just thrilled about it, taking nothing away from Uncle Joe and Joe Biden's win and all that. But Joe Biden knew what he was into. He knew what he was up to.
Yep.
He knew the role he had to play. He knew what his 40 years of being a senator and being the youngest senator ever elected and now being the oldest president ever elected. I mean, talk about a guy with some range. Who would have thought Joe Biden would be that guy? But he knew that part of that was also to make to save this country from Donald Trump and to cleanse the palate for things in the future. And I think it's fantastic.
And now that there's going to be an open Senate seat in California, how do you like the sound of Senator Katie Porter?
I mean, the people lined up for running for that seat. You think Newsom's going to give up that? The governor? Yeah. I mean, this is going to be, you know what it's going to be. Porter gets to become governor. Newsom gets to become senator. And here we go. And somewhere there's a back room where there's a group of people making all of these decisions. And nope. But, future Senator Katie Porter, if you need our help, you know where to find us.
Yeah, you do.
Yep. Well, Rob.
Yeah.
We said it. This guy's got to go. We've said it multiple times, and I think it's going to happen. I think this guy's going to go.
The prophetic truth of this guy's got to go is so heartening, and this encore edition of our little podcast is really a lot of fun to celebrate.
And to all of you who reached out and said, "Hey, we need a fresh installment." Don't think that wasn't heated. We heard it very clearly. So to all of you, aka Mike Stavlin, thank you so much for.
And my sister Kathy Fazio
for making what some people do at the end of their podcast is they do a long list. Like I'm talking about you NPR people that do a long list of all the people that were your producers and the people that put it together, and it becomes a long list. We should just do that with our regular listeners because it'd be that same kind of list, 17 people. No, I'm just teasing. There's a lot of people who listen. We appreciate it. Thanks. And if anybody's new to this on the Facebook streams and the Periscope stream and YouTube, Twitter streams, Doug Pagitt,
Robb Ryerse, smoking a victory cigar.
Seems a little early for that, but we'll let that pass. Signing off. Thanks, everybody.